The massive alien ship hung in space like a metal mountain. Its dark hull stretched for miles, covered in weapon ports and glowing symbols. Inside the ship, Captain Jake Morrison walked down a long hallway with his small team from Earth. The walls were made of some strange metal that seemed to pulse with a faint light. "This doesn't feel like a friendly meeting," said Lieutenant Amy Carter, walking beside Jake. She kept her hand near her sidearm, though she knew it would be useless against the aliens who had brought them here. Jake nodded but kept walking. The HFY Empire had sent a message to Earth 3 weeks ago. They called it a cultural exchange, but Jake had been a Marine long enough to know when someone was trying to intimidate him. Still, Earth needed to know what they were dealing with. These aliens had ships that could destroy entire planets. The hallway opened into a huge circular room. Jake stopped and looked around. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Hundreds of different aliens sat in rows of seats that went up the walls like a stadium. Some had fur, others had scales, and many looked like nothing Jake had ever imagined. In the center of the room was a fighting ring surrounded by energy barriers. The floor was made of metal plates that looked like they had seen a lot of violence. Dark stains covered some areas, and Jake didn't want to think about what had caused them. A tall alien stepped forward. It looked like a giant lizard walking on 2 legs. Its skin was green and covered in small scales. When it opened its mouth, Jake saw rows of sharp teeth. "I am Commander Zethak of the HFY Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and rough like gravel falling down a hill. "You are the humans from the planet called Earth." "That's right," Jake said. He tried to keep his voice calm and steady. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Lieutenant Amy Carter and Dr. Pete Williams." Commander Zethak looked at them for a long moment. His yellow eyes reminded Jake of a snake watching a mouse. "You have come to learn about our empire. We will teach you." The alien raised one clawed hand and the lights in the room dimmed. Suddenly, images appeared in the air above the fighting ring. They showed planets covered in cities, massive fleets of ships and battles that destroyed moons. "The HFY Empire rules over 200 worlds," Zethak said. "We have conquered species that could crush mountains with their bare hands. We have defeated armies of machines that never tire or feel fear. All of them now serve us willingly." Amy moved closer to Jake. "Willingly," she whispered. More images appeared. They showed alien leaders bowing before HFY commanders. Jake saw the fear in their eyes, even across the different species. This wasn't willing service. This was surrender after defeat. Every species that wishes to remain free must prove they are worthy. Zethak continued. "They must face our greatest champion in single combat. If their warrior wins, we offer friendship and trade. If they lose..." He paused and smiled, showing all those sharp teeth. "They join our empire as servants." The crowd of aliens in the seats began to make noise. Some whistled, others growled, and many made sounds Jake couldn't identify. But he could tell they were excited. They had seen this before, and they knew how it always ended. "Where is this champion?" Jake asked, though he was pretty sure he didn't. "Want to know?" As if answering his question, the floor in the center of the ring began to open. Something was rising up from below. Jake heard heavy footsteps before he saw anything. Then a massive shape emerged from the opening. The creature that stepped into the ring was the largest living thing Jake had ever seen. It stood at least 12 feet tall and was built like a walking tank. Its body was covered in what looked like natural armor plates, dark and shiny like beetle shells. 4 muscular arms hung from its shoulders, each one as thick as Jake's entire body. The thing's head was huge, with glowing red eyes and a mouth full of metal teeth. Scars covered its armor plates, and Jake could see cables and wires running under its skin. This wasn't just a natural creature. Someone had made it stronger with machines and surgery. "This is Gorthel the Worldbreaker," Zethak announced. "He has never been defeated. 47 species have sent their best warriors to face him. 47 species now serve the Empire." Gorthel raised all 4 arms and roared. The sound was so loud that Jake felt it in his chest. The creature's voice was like thunder mixed with the screech of tearing metal. The alien crowd cheered and stamped their feet. So, Zethak said, turning back to Jake, which of you will face our champion? Jake looked at his team. Amy was young and strong, but she weighed maybe 130 pounds. Pete was a scientist who spent most of his time in laboratories. Neither of them stood a chance against the monster in the ring. I'll do it, Jake said. Jake, no, Amy said quickly. Look at that thing. It's impossible. Someone has to, Jake replied. He had seen enough battles to know when retreat wasn't an option. If they backed down now, Earth would become another servant world. Maybe his people could find a way to fight back later, but first someone had to buy them time. Zethak's eyes gleamed with pleasure. Excellent, the human accepts the challenge. The alien crowd erupted in noise again. Jake could see them pointing at him and making what he assumed were bets. None of them seemed to be betting on the human. You may use any weapons or armor you wish, Zethak said. We provide equipment for those who need it. Jake looked down at himself. He wore his standard diplomatic uniform, a simple blue jacket and black pants. No armor, no weapons except for his sidearm, which would probably bounce off the champion's natural armor like a toy. I'm good, Jake said. Even Zethak looked surprised. You will face Gorthel with no protection? I don't need any. The alien. Commander studied Jake's face, looking for signs of fear or madness. Jake kept his expression calm, though inside he was running through everything he remembered from his Marine training. Most of it involved fighting other humans, not 12-foot monsters with 4 arms. Very well, Zethak said finally. Let the trial begin. Jake walked toward the energy barrier surrounding the fighting ring. Behind him, he heard Amy whisper a prayer. He hoped someone was listening. The energy barrier around the fighting ring flickered and disappeared. Jake stepped inside and immediately felt the difference. The air was thicker here, and he could smell something like burned metal and old blood. The metal floor was cold under his feet, even through his shoes. Gorthel the Worldbreaker stood on the opposite side of the ring, all 12 feet of him. Up close, Jake could see more details that made his stomach turn. The creature's forearms ended in hands that looked more like claws. Each finger was as long as a knife blade and just as sharp. The cables running under its skin pulsed with some kind of energy, making the armor plates glow faintly. The alien crowd had gone quiet. Every eye in the stadium was focused on the ring. Jake could feel their excitement like electricity in the air. They were waiting to see how quickly the human would die. You still have time to surrender, Gorthel said. Its voice was like rocks, grinding together. I will make it quick. Thanks, but I'm good, Jake replied. He rolled his shoulders and took a deep breath. His Marine instructors had always told him that the first rule of combat was to stay calm. Fear made you slow, and slow got you killed. Gorthel tilted its massive head, studying Jake like a puzzle it couldn't solve. You are very small, it said. Even for a human. Size isn't everything, Jake said. The creature laughed, a sound like breaking glass. We shall see. Commander Zethak stood up in his viewing box. Let the trial begin, he shouted. What happened next was something Jake had experienced many times in combat. Time seemed to slow down, and everything became very clear. He could see every detail, the way Gorthel's muscles tensed, the slight shift in its weight, the angle of its massive head as it prepared to charge. Gorthel exploded forward with speed that seemed impossible for something so large. Its feet cracked the metal floor with each step, all 4 arms spread wide, ready to grab Jake and tear him apart. The creature's red eyes burned with the joy of an easy kill. Jake stood perfectly still and watched the monster come at him. In his mind, he could hear his old drill sergeant shouting, "Timing, Morrison, it's all about timing." At the last possible second, as Gorthel's massive fist came down toward his head with enough force to crush a car, Jake raised his right hand. He spread his fingers slightly and caught the creature's fist between his index and middle finger. The impact sent a shockwave through the arena. The metal floor cracked in a circle around Jake's feet. The energy barriers protecting the crowd flickered and sparked. But Jake didn't move. He stood there, holding a 12-foot monster's punch with 2 fingers. The silence that followed was complete. Not one of the hundreds of aliens in the stadium made a sound. Even the air recycling system seemed to have stopped working. Gorthel stared down at its trapped fist with confusion written across its scarred face. It tried to pull back, and Jake felt the creature's enormous strength trying to break free. The monster's other 3 arms grabbed its trapped hand and pulled. Its feet dug into the metal floor, leaving deep gouges. Nothing happened. Jake's grip held firm. "What?" Gorthel whispered. Jake looked up at the creature's glowing red eyes. "You were saying something about size?" The champion began to panic. It threw its full weight backward, trying to escape. Jake felt like he was holding a freight train that wanted to go somewhere else. The strain was enormous, but his fingers didn't budge. The monster's feet actually left the ground as it pulled, but Jake's grip never loosened. In the viewing areas, aliens were standing up and pointing. Many of them were making sounds that Jake assumed were their versions of gasps and shouts. A few looked like they might faint. Commander Zethak was on his feet, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Dr. Pete Williams, watching from the sidelines, had pulled out a small device and was frantically taking readings. Amy Carter stood with her mouth open, staring at her captain like she had never seen him before. Gorthel tried a different approach. It swung its free arms at Jake, hoping to force him to let go. Jake simply leaned back slightly, letting the claws whistle past his face. The creature's wild swings only made it more off balance. "Stay still," Jake said calmly. "You're going to hurt yourself." The champion let out a roar of frustration that shook dust from the ceiling. It tried to kick Jake, but from its position with one arm trapped, it couldn't get the right angle. Every movement just made it look more helpless. Jake could feel the eyes of every alien in the stadium on him. He knew this moment would decide Earth's future. If he let go now, if he showed any weakness, his people would spend the rest of their existence as servants to the Kethvar Empire. "Here's what's going to happen," Jake said, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You're going to calm down and stop struggling. Then we're going to have a conversation about how this whole conquest thing is going to work out." Gorthel's struggles became weaker. The creature was getting tired, something that probably hadn't happened to it in years. Its breathing was becoming heavy and sweat was dripping from its armor plates. "I don't understand," it gasped. "Your readings show you are weak. You have no enhancements, no armor, no weapons. How is this possible?" Jake smiled. "That's the thing about humans. We're full of surprises." In the viewing box, Commander Zethak was talking rapidly to other Kethvar officers. Jake could see them pointing at various devices and shaking their heads. Whatever their instruments were telling them, they didn't believe it. Amy Carter found her voice first. "Jake," she called out, "how are you doing that?" "Marine training," Jake replied without taking his eyes off Gorthel. "And a really good breakfast this morning." Some of the aliens in the crowd were starting to back away from the ring as if being close to Jake might be dangerous. Others were leaning forward, trying to get a better look at the human who had just done the impossible. Gorthel's legs finally gave out, and the creature collapsed to its knees. Jake's grip was the only thing keeping it from falling face first onto the metal floor. The champion's red eyes had lost their glow and its breathing was ragged. "Please," it whispered. "I yield." Jake looked around the stadium at hundreds of alien faces, all staring at him with expressions ranging from terror to amazement. He knew that whatever happened next would echo across the galaxy. "Good," he said. "Now we can talk." Jake finally released Gorthel's fist and the massive creature collapsed completely onto the metal floor. The champion lay there, breathing heavily, staring up at the human who had just defeated him with 2 fingers. Around the arena, hundreds of aliens sat in stunned silence. Commander Zethak was the first to break the quiet. "Scan him!" he shouted to someone Jake couldn't see. "Scan the human immediately!" Within seconds, beams of light were shining down on Jake from hidden devices in the ceiling. He felt a tingling sensation as the alien scanners examined every part of his body. Red and blue lights played across his skin while machines hummed and beeped around the arena. Dr. Klavon, the Kethvar's chief scientist, rushed into the viewing box carrying a device that looked like a tablet made of glass. His scaled hands shook as he read the results. "Commander," Klavan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The scans show nothing." "What do you mean, nothing?" Zethak demanded. "I mean the human is completely baseline. No genetic modifications, no cybernetic implants, no exotic materials in his skeleton, no energy enhancement systems. According to our instruments, he should be one of the weakest beings in this arena, the UAE." Silence that followed was even deeper than before. Jake could see aliens throughout the stadium looking at each other with growing fear. Some were already backing toward the exits. Amy Carter climbed into the ring and walked over to Jake. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "Fine," Jake said. "Though I think we might have made an impression. That's one way to put it," Amy replied. She looked around at all the staring faces. "I think some of them are about to panic." She was right. In the viewing areas, aliens were having rapid conversations in dozens of different languages. Jake could see them pointing at him and making gestures that probably meant impossible in whatever language they spoke. Commander Zethak had recovered enough to speak. "Human," he called down to Jake. "Explain what just happened." Jake looked up at the alien commander. "Your champion tried to hit me. I stopped him. Seemed pretty straightforward to me." "That is not an explanation." Zethak's voice cracked with frustration. "Gorthel has the strength to crush starship hulls with his bare hands. Our instruments show that you are a normal member of your species with no enhancements. How did you stop him?" Amy stepped forward. "If I may, Commander, I can explain some things about human physiology." "Speak," Zethak said immediately. Amy took a deep breath. She had studied alien biology as part of her diplomatic training, so she understood how different species worked. "Humans are what we call an adrenaline species," she began. "When we're in danger, our bodies release chemicals that make us much stronger than normal." "How much stronger?" Dr. Klavan asked, leaning forward with scientific curiosity. "Well," Amy said, "a human mother once lifted a car off her child. The car weighed about 3,000 pounds. Several aliens made choking sounds. Jake figured those were their versions of gasps. But that's not the really interesting part," Amy continued. "You see, most of the time humans only use about 30% of their actual muscle strength. Our nervous systems hold us back to prevent us from hurting ourselves." "Hold you back?" Zethak asked. "Yes. If we used our full strength all the time, we'd tear our own muscles and break our own bones. But in a life or death situation, those safety limits get turned off." Dr. Klavan was frantically taking notes on his glass tablet. "What other capabilities do humans possess?" Amy thought for a moment. "Well, we're persistence hunters. We can run for hours without stopping. On our home world, humans used to hunt large animals by literally chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion." "For how long?" another alien scientist asked. "The longest recorded chase was over 26 hours, Amy said. "The human never stopped running." Jake could see the fear spreading through the crowd like a wave. Aliens were whispering to each other with increasing urgency. Some were already leaving their seats. "There's also our pain tolerance," Amy added. "Humans have been known to continue fighting even with injuries that would kill most species. We have soldiers who've walked miles with broken bones or kept fighting after losing limbs." A small alien that looked like a blue hedgehog stood up in the crowd. "Are you saying that all humans can do these things?" "To some degree, yes," Amy replied. "Though Captain Morrison here is actually considered to be on light duty. He spends most of his time in offices, not in combat." The blue alien sat down heavily, as if its legs had stopped working. Commander Zethak was having a rapid conversation with several other Kethvar officers. Jake could see them checking their own tablets and shaking their heads. Whatever they were reading wasn't making them happy. "Dr. Klavan," Zethak called out, "what do our intelligence files say about human military capabilities?" The scientist's face turned a shade of green that Jake was pretty sure meant he was feeling sick. "Commander, if these humans are telling the truth, then we need to completely reevaluate our assessment of their species." "Explain." Our spies reported that human soldiers train for something called hand-to-hand combat. We assumed this was primitive fighting with simple weapons. But if they're actually training to fight with their bare hands at these strength levels... Klavan trailed off, but Jake could see that everyone understood what he meant. If baseline humans could stop their champion with 2 fingers, what could trained human soldiers do? There's something else, Amy said. She looked a little embarrassed. We should probably mention that human children often engage in what we call play fighting. Children? Zethak asked. Yes. They wrestle and box with each other for fun. We also have organized sports based on controlled combat. Boxing, wrestling, martial arts competitions. Millions of humans participate in these activities recreationally. An alien that looked like a walking tree branch started making a high-pitched whining sound. Jake thought it might be crying. And, Amy continued, humans have been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at it. The arena was starting to empty as more aliens headed for the exits. Jake could hear the word deathworld being whispered in several different languages. He wasn't sure what it meant, but it didn't sound friendly. Dr. Klavan was reading something on his tablet with growing horror. Commander, he said, his voice shaking, I've been reviewing the data about the human home planet. The gravity is within normal range, but the planet itself, what about it? It's covered in predators. Large predators. The humans evolved alongside creatures that could easily kill most sentient species. Their entire evolutionary history is about surviving on a world that's trying to kill them. Commander Zethak sat down heavily in his chair. Around the arena, the remaining aliens were staring at Jake like he was a bomb that might explode at any moment. So, Jake said cheerfully, should we talk about that trade agreement now? The emergency meeting was held in Commander Zethak's private chambers, a large room filled with holographic displays and alien technology that hummed softly. Jake sat at one end of a curved table, with Amy and Dr. Williams beside him. Around, the rest of the table sat the highest-ranking Kethvar officers, along with several alien scientists who looked like they hadn't slept in days. Gorthel was there too, sitting in a specially reinforced chair. The former champion kept staring at Jake with a mixture of fear and fascination. Every few minutes he would flex his right hand, the one Jake had caught, as if he still couldn't believe what had happened. Dr. Klavan had spread his research across several floating screens. Charts and graphs showed human biological data compared to other known species. Most of the lines representing human capabilities went far beyond what the aliens had thought possible. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Zethak said slowly. Captain Morrison is not a warrior? Not anymore, Jake replied. I was a Marine for 8 years, but now I'm a diplomat. I spend most of my time in meetings and writing reports. And Marines are your soldiers? One type, yes. We have several. Different military branches. Zethak looked at his advisors. How many humans serve in these military branches? Amy checked her tablet. Active duty military personnel number about 2 million worldwide. But we also have reserves, National Guards, police forces, and private security. If you count everyone, with combat training, it's probably around 50 million people. Several aliens made choking sounds. Dr. Klavan had to sit down. 50 million? Zethak repeated slowly. And they are all trained to fight like Captain Morrison? Better, Jake said. I've been behind a desk for 3 years. Active duty soldiers train constantly and are in much better shape than I am. And alien that looked like a purple bear raised one paw. What about your weapons? Dr. Williams spoke up for the first time. We have everything from simple firearms to nuclear weapons. Our largest bombs can destroy entire cities. How many of these nuclear weapons do you possess? Asked another alien scientist. Globally? About 13,000 warheads, Williams replied. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Dr. Klavan falling off his chair. 13,000 weapons that can destroy cities? Zethak's voice was barely a whisper. That's just the nuclear ones, Amy added helpfully. We also have conventional weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons, and we're working on some energy-based systems. Jake could see that they were starting to panic the aliens, which wasn't really his goal. Look, he said, we don't want to fight anyone. Humans generally prefer peaceful solutions to problems. Generally? Gorthel asked. It was the first time he had spoken since the fight. Well, Jake said, we're not perfect. Sometimes we disagree with each other and have wars, but most humans would rather trade and cooperate than fight. What happens when humans do fight each other? Zethak asked. Amy and Jake exchanged glances. It gets pretty bad, Amy admitted. Our last major global war lasted 6 years and killed about 80 million people. More aliens started looking sick. Jake was beginning to feel sorry for them. But that was 80 years ago, he added quickly. We've gotten much better at avoiding large conflicts since then. How? Asked Dr. Klavan, who had climbed back into his chair, mostly by making sure everyone has enough food and resources. Jake explained. Happy people don't usually want to fight wars. An alien scientist that looked like a walking crystal raised a glowing appendage. What about your children? The lieutenant mentioned they engage in combat training. Amy smiled. We call it playing. Human children wrestle with each other, play war games, compete in sports. It's how they learn social skills and physical coordination. At what age do they begin this training? The crystal alien asked. Around 2 or 3 years old, Amy said. They start with simple games like tag and hide and seek. Tag? Zethak asked. One child chases the others and tries to touch them. When they're touched, they become the chaser. It teaches them about pursuit tactics and evasion techniques. Hide and seek? Children hide while one child tries to find them. It develops stealth skills and observation abilities. Dr. Klavan was writing frantically on his tablet. And you consider this normal childhood development? Absolutely, Jake said. We also have organized sports for children. Soccer, baseball, football, hockey, basketball, millions of kids participate. What is football? Gorthel asked. Amy thought for a moment. 2 teams try to carry a ball to opposite ends of a field while the other team tries to stop them. Players can tackle each other, meaning they grab the ball carrier and throw them to the ground. This is a children's game? Zethak's voice cracked slightly. Well, children play a gentler version, but yes, kids as young as 6 years old play organized football. And the adults? Professional football players are some of our biggest celebrities, Jake said. The championship game is watched by over 100 million people. An alien that looked like a blue squid raised several tentacles. These sports, do humans get injured? Sometimes, Amy admitted. Broken bones, torn muscles, concussions. But we have good medical care, so most injuries heal completely. And humans continue playing even after being injured? Often, yes, we call it playing through the pain. It's considered admirable. The squid alien made a sound like a deflating balloon and slumped in its chair. Commander Zethak stood up and began pacing around the room. Let me see if I understand the situation, he said. Humans are a species that evolved on a death world. You have natural strength levels that exceed our enhanced warriors. You train for combat from early childhood. You have weapons that can destroy planets, and you consider pain and injury to be minor inconveniences. That's a bit of an oversimplification, Jake said, but it's not completely wrong. And Earth has how many humans? About 8 billion, Dr. Williams replied. Zethak stopped pacing. 8 billion. Give or take a few million, Amy said. The population is still growing. Growing? About 75 million new humans are born each year. Dr. Klavan's tablet slipped from his hands and clattered to the floor. 75 million new potential warriors, every year. Most of them won't become soldiers, Jake said. We need farmers, teachers, doctors, engineers, artists. Human society is very complex. But they all have the same basic capabilities. As you? Gorthel asked. More or less. Some humans are stronger, some are faster, some are smarter. But we're all basically the same species. Zethak sat down heavily and put his head in his hands. Around the table, other aliens were having quiet conversations that sounded increasingly worried. Commander, Dr. Klavan said quietly, I believe we may have made a serious error in judgment. What do you mean? We invited them here to intimidate them into joining our empire. Instead, we have learned that they represent the greatest military threat any of us have ever encountered. Jake held up his hands. Now wait a minute. We're not a threat to anyone who doesn't threaten us first. Humans are actually pretty friendly, once you get to know us. But what if we had tried to force you to surrender? Zethek asked. Jake was quiet for a moment. Well, he said finally, that probably would have made us angry. And what happens when humans get angry? Jake looked around, the table at all the worried alien faces. You really don't want to find out. Admiral Nextar sat at the head of the massive conference table aboard the command ship of the Kethvar fleet. The enormous alien looked even more impressive than Commander Zethak, with darker scales and scars that told of countless battles. Around the table sat the leaders of the Kethvar Empire, along with representatives from dozens of other species. Jake Morrison sat calmly across from the Admiral, with Amy Carter and Dr. Williams beside him. The past 3 days had been a whirlwind of meetings, scans, and increasingly worried conversations among the alien leadership. Captain Morrison, Admiral Nextar said, his deep voice filling the room, we have reviewed all the data about your species. Our scientists have confirmed that everything you and your people have told us is accurate. Good, Jake replied. Honesty is important in diplomacy. Indeed. The Admiral leaned forward. We have also consulted with leaders from all the species in our empire. The consensus is troubling. Troubling how? Commander Zethak, sitting to the Admiral's right, activated a holographic display. We have run military simulations based on what we now know about human capabilities. In every scenario where the Kethvar Empire attempts to conquer Earth, we lose. Not just lose, added Dr. Klavan from his seat nearby. We face complete destruction. Our models suggest that an angry human population would not stop at simply defending themselves. Jake nodded slowly. Humans don't like bullies. When someone tries to hurt us or our friends, we tend to take it personally. An alien that looked like a walking flower raised several petal-like appendages. Captain Morrison, what would your people do if we had proceeded with our original plan to make Earth part of our empire? Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. Well, first we would have tried diplomacy. Humans always prefer to talk before fighting. And if diplomacy failed, then we would have defended ourselves. Jake's voice remained calm, but something in his tone made several aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. Our analysis suggests that human defensive capabilities would be extensive, Admiral Nextar said carefully. Amy spoke up. Admiral, may I ask what your simulations assumed about human response to invasion? Dr. Klavan consulted his tablet. We modeled various scenarios. Resistance from your military forces, of course, but also civilian participation in combat operations, guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and... He paused, looking uncomfortable. And what? Jake asked. And the possibility that your species would develop new weapons specifically designed to fight us, Zethek finished. Our research into human history shows that you are remarkably creative when it comes to finding new ways to destroy your enemies. Dr. Williams leaned forward. You studied our history? Extensively, the Admiral replied. We were particularly interested in your Second World War. The rapid advancement in weapons technology during that conflict was impressive. Impressive is one word for it, Jake said quietly. In 4 years, humans went from flying simple propeller aircraft to building rockets that could cross continents, Dr. Klavan continued. You developed nuclear weapons, jet engines, radar, computers, and dozens of other technologies, all in the middle of fighting a global war. What really concerned us, Zethak added, was learning that humans actually held back. Your scientists could have built weapons much more destructive than the ones you used, but chose not to. Jake nodded. We've always been good at making things that can hurt people. We're trying to get better at making things that help people, instead. An alien that looked like a silver tree spoke for the first time. Captain Morrison, what do humans want from the galaxy? Jake smiled. That's easy. We want to explore. We want to learn. We want to meet new people and see new places. We want to trade knowledge and resources. We want to make friends. And if someone tries to stop you from doing those things, the tree alien asked. Then we'll find a way around them, Jake replied. Humans are very stubborn when we want something. Admiral, Nextar exchanged glances with his advisors. Captain Morrison, we have a proposal. I'm listening. The HFY Empire has spent centuries conquering other species because we believed it was the only way to ensure our security. Stronger species might threaten us, so we made sure there were no stronger species. That's one approach, Jake said diplomatically. But you have shown us that there is another way. Instead of conquering species that might threaten us, we could ally with them, form partnerships that benefit everyone. Amy leaned forward with interest. What kind of partnerships? Commander Zethek activated another display. We possess advanced technology in many areas. Faster-than-light travel, energy generation, medical, science, industrial manufacturing. But we lack something that humans seem to have in abundance, which is innovation, creativity, the ability to find new solutions to old problems. The alien commander looked directly at Jake. In 3 days, you have forced us to completely rethink our approach to galactic politics. That kind of thinking could be very valuable. Dr. Williams sat up straighter. Are you proposing some kind of alliance? More than that, Admiral Nextar said. We are proposing a complete transformation of how we operate. Instead of an empire built on conquest, we could create a federation built on cooperation. With humans as partners rather than subjects, Jake asked. With humans as protectors, the Admiral replied. Your species has the capability to defend against any threat we might face. In exchange, we offer our technology and resources to help humanity expand into the galaxy. Jake was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the implications. What about all the species you've already conquered? They would be offered the same choice we are offering you, Zethak said. Freedom in exchange for cooperation. Those who wish to leave our territory would be free to go. Those who wish to stay would become equal partners rather than subjects. Amy pulled out her tablet and began making notes. This would require approval. From Earth's government, of course, we can't make these decisions on our own. Of course, Admiral Nextar agreed. But we hope your people will see the benefits of such an arrangement. Jake stood up and walked to the large window that showed the stars outside. Admiral, can I ask you something? Certainly. What changed your mind? 3 days ago you were ready to conquer Earth. Now you're talking about partnerships and cooperation. What made the difference? The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Fear, he said finally. Not fear of human weapons or human strength, though both are formidable. Fear of what we might become if we made enemies of your species. I don't understand. Captain Morrison, in all our centuries of conquest, we have never encountered a species that could not only defeat us, but potentially surpass us in every way that matters. Your people are stronger, more creative, more adaptable than we are. But more importantly, you seem to be genuinely decent. Jake turned back to face the Admiral. Decent? You could have killed Gorthel. You had him completely at your mercy and everyone in that arena knew it. But you stopped the moment he surrendered. You showed mercy to someone who was planning to kill you. Gorthel, who had been quiet throughout the meeting, finally spoke. In my entire career as a champion, no one had ever held back against me. Every opponent fought to the death because they knew I would show no mercy. But you stopped. It was over, Jake said simply. There was no point in continuing. That, Admiral Nexitar said, is why we want you as allies rather than enemies. A species with your capabilities and your moral character could help us become something better than we are. Jake looked around the table at all the alien faces, watching him hopefully. I'll need to talk to my government, but I think we can work something out. Amy finished typing on her tablet. I'll need to send a detailed report to Earth immediately. Of course, the Admiral said. But Captain Morrison, may I ask what your personal recommendation will be? Jake smiled. I think this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. 3 months later, the first human embassy opened on the HFY homeworld. 6 months after that, the first joint human-alien exploration mission left for uncharted space. And 1 year later, when a species of aggressive robots threatened the outer rim of known space, they found themselves facing not just the HFY fleet, but human vessels fighting alongside them. The robots learned the same lesson that Gorthel had learned in that arena. It's better to make friends with humans than to make them angry. Much better.